Welcome. You're listening to The Aligned Self, Conversations in Creating a Conscious and Abundant Life. This is Daniel Denovi. I'll be your guide and host. Let's see just where we can take this. Hello, friend, and welcome back to the conversation. Well, today we're going to talk about manifesting, specifically instantaneous manifestations, instant manifesting. And you're probably aware that one of the hats that I wear is that of a manifesting coach, a teacher of the principles of manifestation and law of attraction, how to put them to work in your life. And recently I came across a teacher on TikTok, a coach, a manifestation coach, and she was teaching instant manifestation. She was promising to teach people instant manifestations. Now, on the surface, that sounds like something very desirable. Who wouldn't want an instant manifestation? And in there lies her hook. She hooks people in promising the instant manifestations. Now, in this episode, I'm going to tell you several reasons why. I think there's 5. There might be more. But several reasons why you don't want instant manifestations. First and foremost, let's state again for the record that you are always manifesting. You're never not manifesting. Just take a look at what's showing up in your life, in your circumstances, and that is reflective of your vibration and your intention. This is a perfect feedback loop. When people have difficulty or a problem with the law of attraction, where they don't feel as if their intentions are being fulfilled as rapidly or as quickly as they want or as they desire, they say it doesn't work. Or what am I doing wrong? And what am I doing wrong, or how am I missing the mark is probably the more appropriate question, because it gives you the opportunity to get into alignment, to align your intention, align your vibration, to align your heart, your mind, and your body towards your intention. Now, let's consider instant manifestations, instantaneously having your desires fulfilled. You have a thought, and it is immediately in your experience. There is no lag time, instantaneous. Well, you would never have the experience of not being without your intention. It would be as if it was always there. And in my mind, it would actually rob us of some of the joy in receiving. You see, gratitude is a way that we manifest in ourselves a feeling of joy and love by identifying how we're blessed. And typically we identify how we're blessed by remembering when we did not have something and now we do have access to something or someone or an experience. And in that acknowledgement, there is an appreciation for receiving. If we had access to instantaneous manifestations, what that would lead to is a diminishing sense of well-being. And I say that for several reasons. One is that we would never be out of our comfort zone. We would always be in our comfort zone. We would not be uncomfortable. We wouldn't experience any lack. Now, if you consider the human mind, our minds, our thoughts, our memories are constructed as stories. We are a story machine. We are a meaning-making machine. If you take away the journey, the instant manifestation, then you take away our story. And from my perspective, we are a spiritual being immersed in the human experience. And part of that experience is being in the journey. It's not about what we achieve. It's not about what we get or what we manifest. It's who do we become? What do we discover along the way? We would no longer experience the feeling of personal growth, of bridging the chasm, of crossing the gap. Without that contrast, we would never actually have the experience of knowing when we're not in alignment and then bringing ourselves into alignment and what that experience feels like. And speaking of alignment, an instantaneous manifestation might align with you, but you rub shoulders with a number of other people. You are in a community of spirits, of like-minded people. Without the wisdom of a bigger picture, without the wisdom of a God perspective or a universal perspective to work out the most benevolent outcome for all concerned, more than likely you may get your intention fulfilled, but you're going to create collateral damage for everyone around you. Without the co-creative force of the universe, and divine timing, making sure everything is aligned across the board, there is the potential for a greater degree of undesired effects to happen all around you. I remember the movie The Butterfly Effect that I just want to resource, and you might not have seen it. Look it up. It's interesting, to be sure. But if you're not familiar with the butterfly effect, the idea is that a butterfly flapping its wings on the coast of California could set off a cascade effect that would result in a hurricane in Florida. Just a greater and greater effect or ripple that goes out across time and space. Now, in the movie The Butterfly Effect, you may or may not have seen it. Look it up and watch it. I think you'll enjoy it. I just looked it up. You can watch it on YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, Google Play and TV, Apple TV, and Fandango at home. It stars Ashton Kutcher and was released in 2004. So it's 20 years old. But essentially, Ashton Kutcher, the protagonist, has the ability to go back in time and change events. And each time he would go back and change one little event, one little sense of timing, it would have a cascade effect that would be ultimately worse than the original life, the original journey that he was on. And so the movie is a series of him going back in time, attempting to fix his fixes. You see, that's the problem of being human. We don't necessarily always have the ability to see the bigger picture, to see with our third eye, to see the grand scheme of things. This is a God perspective, a universal perspective, where it takes not only our life, our journey into account, but the journey and paths of everyone around us. And so when we're aligned with our intention, there is a synchronicity of events. It's actually an indicator that we're on the right path, that things are working out for us, that we're aligned with our intention. The other problem with an instantaneous manifestation, it may be fulfilling an immediate intention, but it might be detrimental to your long-term journey. It may have unintended consequences for your relationships, for your career, for your happiness. In every regard, you may get what you want, but it may not be the best for you. Having a little bit of a lag time in there allows us to adjust and refine and clarify our intention, clarify our desires. There's been times when I've gotten what I thought I wanted, and it created more problems for me. I got the relationship that I wanted with the girl that I wanted, and it didn't work out. It was more problems than it was worth. But I can remember wanting it, but it wasn't the best for me. I did learn a lot. In hindsight, there's never such thing as a bad event. There's always learning opportunities. And there's been many times when the universe saw a grander plan for me and set me off on a journey that I would have never chosen consciously, but I got the greatest amount of growth and insight from going that journey. Through our journey, through our overcoming of the gaps and the lack of aligning ourselves, we actually add to the collective. We add to the universal mind. And so our efforts, or I guess more specifically, our actions and intentions, our thoughts, add to the collective mind, add to the collective body of knowledge. If we had the ability to have instantaneous manifestations, there would be no purpose for our life here on planet Earth. There would be no reason to be here. There would be no story, would be no experience. That's the biggest part. It would have no experience. We would just be, and because everything was instantaneous, we would not remember not being. We would not remember not having. We would not remember the story of our unfolding. And so, my friend, I have hoped I've built an argument here, or at least a perspective, to dismiss the idea that you want instantaneous manifestations. Now, over time, I have to admit that in aligning my values and aligning my behavior and being more concerned with my vibration and making sure that I'm responsible for that, my manifestations do occur faster than they have in the past. Now, some things don't occur that fast. Some things have been delayed for a year, 2 years, 5 years. But by and large, the majority of my manifestations do come rather quickly, all things considered. Now, let's talk a minute about time. That's, instantaneous. There is no time, so to speak. And time is relative. And I'm going to get into that when I talk about parallel universes. And because time, instantaneous time or simultaneous time, is a concept that everything is happening simultaneously. Now, in the context of eternity, remember, we're living in the context that we would live about 80 to 100 years old. And so a year is a big deal. A year seems like it drags on forever for a lot of people. But in the context of 1,000 years or 10,000 years, a year or a decade is just a blip on the radar. And so from the perspective of measuring time in 1,000-year increments, 10 years is instantaneous, nearly instantaneous. For the most part, our concept of time is just that. It's a mental construct. It's conceptual. It's an agreement, and we measure events. Oh, I didn't think about that earlier. We measure time, or we track time by measuring events. If our experience was instantaneous and there was no delay, we would not have the experience of time. Ooh, isn't that interesting? Not quite sure where that would go, but it essentially would be the eternal now. But the thing is with the human mind is we cannot live completely in the present moment. We can be aware of the present moment, but our mind operates in the past. Whether it's a moment in the past, we compare and contrast this moment with the one before that to even have the sense that we're getting anywhere or going anywhere. So the real joy of living in the moment is being unencumbered by the disappointments in the past. And there is no anticipation or anxiety about what's lying around the corner. And interestingly enough, it is the immersion of our awareness in the present moment, of attempting to live more so in the present moment, that allows us to manifest things more quickly. So here's the suggestion. When you create an intention, be in the anticipation of it arriving. Be open to receiving it immediately. Most people ask the question, and when they're asking for their desire, holding their intention, they're in the awareness that it's currently not here. Now, you can be in the awareness that it's currently not here, but be in the anticipation and the expectation that it's on its way. It's coming quickly. You're in alignment to it. You're attracting it to you now. In fact, you can already taste it, feel it, experience it as if it's already here. That is taking your manifestation and living into it as if it's happening now, because it's really not what you want, not the thing that you want, not the circumstance. It's ultimately the feeling that you want. It's all about the feeling. And that's another thing about the instantaneous manifestations. You will not have the feeling of it being here. It will be, I guess, just kind of blah. It will just, it's always been here. It's like, I have a friend that dreamed about a Porsche 911 for years, and through some successes in his business, it was evident that he was going to be able to buy the coveted Porsche 911. He counted down the days. He was anticipating, the arrival. He picked the color. He picked the interior. The first week of owning that car, he totally loved. The second week, he totally loved it. Each and every time he got in the car, it was like, it's mine. He just relished it. But the third week, things began to change. He said, I love it, but a lot of the thrill is gone. More joy was in the anticipation of manifesting it than actually having it. Isn't that interesting? Because after it was in his possession, it was a marvelous and phenomenal piece of engineering. But at the end of the day, it was still just transportation. It just got him between here and there. In the United States, you could never really fully open it up on the open road, and so it was always just driving at the speed limit. It was a mode of transportation. And then he became aware that he could hardly put anything in the back seat. The back seat was almost non-existent. It was a place where miniature people might be able to sit, or maybe a bag of groceries, but not a full-size human being. But my friend dreamed about the Porsche for at least a decade. He would test drive them. He would look at them. He had them on his wall, pictures of them. And once he actually bought it, one of the interesting things also that he said about the experience, after driving it a short time, it was hard to remember not having that car. It would actually take some effort for him to put himself back in that desire, back in that manifesting stage. So the message of this episode is be happy that you don't have or have access to instantaneous manifestations. Allow yourself to enjoy the journey. Enjoy the epic adventure. Because the epic adventure is choosing and creating who you are, how you're being in the world. And that journey of self-discovery, living from inner signals, being inner directed, and how you attract manifestations more quickly to you is by following your bliss. Places where there used to be walls, doors and windows will appear. Your life will unfold like magic. You're here to have your life be the story of your self-expression. And in that self-expression, you come up against contrast. You come up against, new discoveries, new intentions, new desires. And that's part of the beauty of achieving or manifesting something. You just want more. What do I want to create now? What can I create down the road? What experiences do I want to manifest? Who do you get to become in the process of living your life? With instantaneous manifestation, you would never know. Well, that's it for this episode, and it's going to sound like I'm repeating myself, but if this is your first time listening, I sign off with the same statement every time. This is your friend and host, Daniel Danovi, urging you to follow your bliss. Live your life from inner signals. Be inner directed as you engage in the epic adventure.